Welcome, champions, to another episode of Champions of Tabletop, narrative campaign of Freeblades. I have with me current world champion, is it, Rodger?
North American
champion. Well, we can call it world champ. I don't know if there's anybody else outside of North America.
We don't care about the rest of the world anyway.
Yeah, got it. Current North American champion, Rodger Rexrod, who's graciously come over and is going to beat the brakes off me in a narrative campaign. The quest for the Moon Scepter. Freeblades is, in my opinion, shines the best in these narrative settings where
Agreed.
you play multiple games in a row and the story progresses and unfolds in front of you. We'll be looking at game number 1, 150 gold free bands for each side, and it's going to take place in a town in Herodel where we're searching for some map pieces.
Yes.
For the scepter. The Herodellans are going to come to defend, played by myself, and some Moonsworn are coming in to find the map pieces to get their artifact.
Have to make sure that the artifact does not fall in the hand of the knights who have too much hubris.
Yeah. As always, we have to show a little bit. Please like the video, comment below if you have any other factions or stories you'd like us to do, and just enjoy. So my Herodellan questers today are going to be led by a Knight of Valia, High Quester of Valia. He provides a heavily armored kind of centerpiece to this army and some magic resistance, which is nice, given that the Fist of Vidjar, my caster, is heavily armored, but he's very power hungry. He can use extra power as the Chosen to reduce the negative effects of wearing that armor and casting, but it also means that he'll run out of power rather quickly and need to get in and mix things up with his hammer more often than not. The core of followers that are going to support these knights today are a militia spearman with some nice defense and standoff, a muster thresher who's going to stay back and ping some shots or maybe run in and try and grab an objective, and a muster archer. I also am bringing in an apprentice knight of Tanar, which is a nice defensive apprentice knight who can run in a flank, try and mix things up with some followers, and an apprentice knight of Barrack who has Impetuous, which means he's got to kind of run in sometimes, but he also has Die Hard to help with his survivability when he does inevitably run in and start mixing things up.
So I decided to go with the Coronan Moonsworn for my free band choice. They are an interesting band to play in that they're one of the few that use a caster as the leader. I'm going to start from my right to left. The caster is the Moon Priestess, and she has a really interesting spell list that can both aid or her own models and allies and work detrimentally against the enemy. So it gives you a lot of variety. The Black Spear model is great to run with her. He's a tanky model that still has some offensive capability, but he has some abilities that really protect the caster, as she's a little more vulnerable in combat. The Mizrakai next to him is a great skirmisher, really good at punching holes in highly armored targets. And then the next two spearmen, the Red Spears, have a lot of synergy with each other, as does the Red Archer with them, which is the third model. And then the Skirmisher is just a fast, annoying model that lets you objective grab and, get places on the battlefield quickly if you need to contest objectives. So the hope is that through the magic, the staying power of the armored figures and the Skirmisher, that should give me a nice, well-rounded force to use.
Coming into game 1, the map is I am on your right side of the main camera or left side from the top-down view.
Castle side.
Castle side. Yeah, that's actually a pretty good way of determining it. Rodger and the Moonsworn are over on the bridge side. There are 3 objectives representing map pieces that are lined to the center of the table. So you can see there's 1 on each of the far flanks and 1 dead center of the table. When it comes to scenario, what is your initial ideas? How are you trying to attack this, Rodger?
So this particular scenario, it's not just about touching a map piece and picking it up. You have to test to see if you find it, and you're not able to test if another enemy model is within 3 inches of the objective. So generally with a game like this, I'm looking to create a numerical advantage at some part of the map, be able to harass the other 2 objectives. So I don't necessarily immediately want to take all 3, but I do want to be able to contest all 3 and try and at least take 1 quickly.
Yeah, and you're looking at 7 models to start out with, and I was also having 7 models.
Correct, yeah.
When you're going into deployment, which we're going to, I think, shortly here, we're rolling off for it. As you're going into deployment, did you already have a mindset of which objective you're running for?
I didn't. Because you won the deployment, that means you get to place models first. So that gives me the advantage to see somewhat how you plan to attack the board.
Okay.
And then if I feel like I can create an advantage based on what models you put where, I'll usually try and do so.
My leader is right behind that wall, but it's the heavy kind of core of my defensive anchor force right in the center, like straight on to that center objective.
Your leader being there immediately makes me know I need to counter that because he's a very capable fighter, obviously. So I immediately countered that, I believe, with my Black Spear, because he is probably, even with my leader, probably the single model that could hang in one-on-one combat for maybe a turn or 2 with your leader.
In my head, how I was thinking I was going to attack this game is I knew in my back pocket I had the spell to reposition somebody as if they were deployed at the edge of the table. And if I could get you to overcommit to 1 objective, I could harass it with somebody from atop that kind of cliff face and then try and sweep the other 2.
Yeah.
That's in my head. That's what I'm going to try to do. So I put my leader, I put my caster, and I end up putting 2 followers, the Thresher and the Archer, up all in the center, kind of stacking the box, hoping to get a large commitment of troops from you in the center. But we actually see you put the Skirmisher on the outside and the Mizrakai, right?
The Mizrakai I placed on the upper portion of the map because he is also a very capable fighter, and I felt like in a one-on-one situation, he was superior to any of your models one-on-one.
Yeah.
So with your leader in the middle, I felt like I could get an advantage at the top by having the Mizrakai up there.
Gotcha. I didn't leave my flanks completely negated. I did have an Apprentice Knight go square up on the close flank with your Skirmisher, and I had the Knight of Barrack up with your Mizrakai. One-on-one, I don't think that Knight of Barrack takes him, but with Die Hard, I think maybe he holds for a turn or 2, maybe. So if things in my head, if things go great with the Knight versus Skirmisher follower on the close flank or my left flank, then I could try and sweep things towards the Mizrakai, take 2 of the 3 objectives, which is the win condition for the game, to win by objective. The other way one of us would win is to win by break, which is to have more than half your life points off the field than on the field. Very hard to do against your Moonswarm, though, because that means I have to deal with either the Mizrakai or the Black Spear.
Yes. And typically, Haradel are also a hard faction to break because they're just extremely high armored. So with the Skirmisher at the bottom of the map, the idea really was just to kite the other objective. I didn't think I would be able to take it. Your Knight was clearly a superior model, but I had a significant speed advantage. So the hope was just I'm going to be able to dance around and keep that model busy.
Yeah. So I think if we looked at like gold allocation to the board, I have one of the flanks. I think the far flank where your Mizrakai is, the Mizrakai is probably a little more expensive than the Knight of Barrack.
Slightly.
Not by much. And then the weird thing is your caster is deployed in the center area, but off kind of cheated towards the Mizrakai's flank.
Correct, yes.
And I did not pick up on this quite early enough that he could be supported so quickly from the caster.
So the advantage that the Coronan caster has over most other casters, it's kind of an exception this game, is that she is a reasonable hand-to-hand fighter as well. So one of the thoughts behind putting her there was to let her potentially support either combat. The other was that allows her to cast spells in either direction, because she's going to have line of sight. Her healing spell's 9 inches. So if something went poorly, she could support in that way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a little bit of a spoiler, but when you told me that, I hit your caster, and you're like, I dodge. That was definitely something that was unique to me, caught me a little off guard, because normally casters don't have defensive talents.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see. Well, I mean, my caster just has armor, which is about his only defensive talent.
That's a pretty good defensive talent.
Yeah. And we're moving in now. We've deployed most of the models, it looks like. I think we're squaring up the last 2. We made our lists independent of each other.
Correct.
I didn't know what you were going to make. You didn't know what I was going to make. Is there anything that you would have done differently, seeing that you have a Knight of Barrack? You're looking down 3 knights and an armored caster with your army?
I don't think so. Corona is designed to have some synergy, and when I put a list together, I try and have as many tools in my toolbox as I can. And so I felt like between the Black Spear and the Mizrakai and the Skirmisher, it gave me, the other followers are kind of generic troops, but it gives me answers for a few things. I had an answer for a highly armored target. I had a model with some staying power. And then, the spells can kind of fill some holes here and there. So I felt pretty good about the list going in.
Gotcha. Looks like we're in round 1 now, or turn 1. I won priority.
You did.
And I don't think either one of us casted anything.
We did not, no.
Other than I did cast a spell actually to yoink my leader off the board. It doesn't look like he's up. Oh, he is. No, I didn't cast anything round 1.
Yeah, I don't think round 1. I think that was round 2.
Yeah, round 2, I try to use that ability to yoink my leader off of the center of the table and then reposition him on a flank.
So round 1, you run most of your models towards the objective.
Yes, I want to look like I'm heavy committing to the center in hopes that you also heavy commit to the center. You have the skirmisher on the flank. I ran my apprentice knight up kind of towards that bridge. I end up getting a little closer to the objective, but you still have that throwing spirit.
And what I'm checking there is I wanted to leave my skirmisher a little short because the knights are strong, but they're not really fast. So I wanted to make sure the next turn you couldn't charge me.
Yep, only movement 5. So anything more than 10 inches out, I can't charge. And your spear throw is 12. So you have a nice little grace period in distance there that you could chuck a long spear throw and not take a charge.
Yep. Now, I felt compelled to get my Black Spear up, which is what I'm measuring right now, because you have models all but on the objective. So I need to at least have him in a position that if you win initiative the next turn and lock him down, he's within 3 inches of the objective, so he's contesting it.
Yeah. Now, you have a nice little formation. It's easier to see in the top-down camera than it is from the under the bridge. But what kind of abilities you were mentioning they have for touching each other?
Right. So the Coronan are the fiction of the faction, or the lore is that they tend to work in pairs. So they have a lot of synergy. So the followers, I bought some veteran upgrades, which are options, but if their bases are touching when they're in hand-to-hand combat, it raises their defense.
So they go from a
5 to a 6.
Wow.
Which for the follower is a significant defense.
Yeah. And so you have both followers touching and your Black Spear all in the center.
Yes.
The caster kind of stays in the cheating towards the flank, but kind of in the middle space, but still running up.
Moved her up far enough so that it's hard to see on the angle, but the stairs of that bridge have a gap. So I moved her up far enough so she could see under it, so that if I wanted to cast spells on my models in the center, I could.
Nice. And then the Mizrakai up on the far flank, that he's just running forward too.
Yes. Yeah. Because it lets him kite and contest things and get to places on the board when you just need an extra body.
Yeah, even against like high mobility factions, their speeds are usually around 7, so
right,
you could still outspeed them. This is where I'm casting my spell to yoink the leader onto the flank.
Yeah.
But I was checking there the counterspell range and line of sight, because of where you have your caster on the other side of those stairs, she was able to see this. I think you realized that you weren't really...
Well, you rolled a 9 to cast your spell.
Yeah.
So when you're trying to counter spell, I have to beat your die number. And if I remember correctly, the cost of that spell was maybe 2. I don't recall, but I just felt like, the odds, I would have had to roll a 10. So the odds just didn't make it worth it to risk the power. Because whether you counter or not, you still have to spend the power to try.
Yeah, yeah. Is that, in general, is that one of the spells on my spell book that you're worried about?
It depends on the scenario. I was a little surprised that you used it when you did, but I understand the concept behind it, because suddenly you have your best fighter and a good knight with support on a flank where I only have 2 models. So, it's a gamble that could pay off.
Yeah.
But it did leave you a little vulnerable in the center.
Yeah.
Because now you have caster, which your caster is a reasonable fighter, but then just 2 followers that are good in the right situation, but certainly probably don't measure up to the red spears that I had there.
And in my head at this point in time, I was just going to have the Fist of Idjar push one of those followers off the cliff to try and contest that objective. I thought I had 2 turns of...
He looks at him, Larry, you know why you're here, don't you?
Yeah, I'm going to just yeet Larry off the cliff and then yeet his cousin right after him the turn after. And that, in my head, would give me 2 or 3 turns of the contesting the center to let my leader catch up on the far side. And then I am moving up with my knight to touch on the close flank that objective.
Mm-hmm.
I know you're faster than me, and in order to contest, you have to get within 3 inches.
Yes.
Which means you're going to have to get within charge range.
Yes.
What I didn't foresee, though, is with an 8-inch movement and a D4, or do you get D6 because of being fast?
D6.
You get D6 from being fast. Okay. Which is even worse. I didn't know it, but it's even worse for me. You were able to even get within 3 inches of the knight and then reliably get outside of 10 just by
evading.
Yep.
Now, what the move with your leader did do kind of froze my caster in place, because I didn't feel like I could reliably move my caster towards the center and leave the Mizrakai. So then my caster's, locked into supporting that flank.
Yeah, but the fun thing you did do is this turn you summoned a spirit archer, and then you baited my own impetuousness against myself, and that Knight of Barak with his 2-handed axe had to charge the Spirit Archer, which allowed the Mizrakai to support contact behind the summoned model and get attacks in against my hero
without
basically,
risking attacks back.
Yeah, which is great. I mean, you see him moving the Mizrakai in right now, which it's a tactic I'm going to have to steal in the future because it's basically 3 power for the summon, right?
Yes. And
you're not risking a whole lot. The summon doesn't mean a huge amount to you.
No. So, you certainly, if you summon over and over again, it eats through your power quickly. But what it does allow is in cases like this where, okay, I'm outnumbered and I need to even those odds suddenly to pull a model literally out of thin air.
Yeah.
And like, I have another fighter. And then I just moved my caster behind the Mizrakai, who's in a charge position. The reason I did that is the faction rule for Corona is known as one. And what that does is give you a +1 bonus to damage if you're within 1 inch of another hero.
Yeah.
So suddenly, and you get the +1 for the charge, +1 for the hero. He gets impact when he charges in, which lets him roll 2d8. So suddenly, that's a really significant attack coming in on your knight while I'm at no risk.
Yeah. Yeah. And the Spirit being there and me having Impetuous, like, it's so good. I was outside of charge range originally of the Mizrakai to begin with, but
Yes.
the guy literally out of thin air showing up within charge range of me before I move or even activate means that I had to even test and potentially fail that, pulling me out into where you want me, kind of making me move on your terms instead of my terms.
Yep.
That would we'll see that happen a couple times in this game where some of my models are forced to move on Rodger's terms.
Now in the center, I essentially just move my followers and spears up to touch the objective to potentially test for it at some point if the opportunity presents itself. Right now, Brandon's models can test it.
Yeah.
And then I believe I fired with my red archer and I hit one of your followers.
Yes. Yeah. I don't think you did any damage, though.
I don't believe so.
And then I'm ranging right now the shot from my muster archer. I see the writing a little bit on the wall that my slower knight is not going to be able to it's going to play Ring Around the Rosie for a little while, longer than I hoped.
Yep.
I hope that it would be over quick, because I really need that knight either in the center or on the other flank. If that can be done.
Yeah, so this was unfortunate because if you shoot the skirmisher and kill it, you can test on that objective, and I have nothing that I can do about it. However, you had to make a discipline check to fire at a model that wasn't the closest model, and I think you charged your discipline.
Yeah, I failed that one pretty.
So not only did you not get to shoot at the skirmisher, you didn't get to shoot at all.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It was a little rough, and I don't think I am currently within 3 inches contesting the center. I had misjudged what it would take to jump down or to run down, and you have 1 turn of testing to get that objective, and I don't think you get it on this first turn. It was later on that maybe you test on that objective a couple times.
Yeah.
And in the combat on the far side between the Knight of Barak, the Spirit, and the Mizrakai, you do end up doing 1 wound to the Knight of Barak. He has his Die Hard, which is a feel no pain or a shrug off. But it's particularly hard on a D8. It's target number 7.
Yeah, 25% chance.
Yeah, not great. But it's something.
Mm-hmm.
And then my repositioned leader doesn't get to move. He's just chilling in the back right now.
So I played that side pretty aggressive because when you moved your leader, I felt like I have 2 turns because he's not the fastest, right? Again, he's a knight. Felt like I have 2 turns to potentially end this fight before it could really go poorly for me if your leader gets up here.
Yeah. And it was a good move because my Knight of Barrack being the only one currently over there, he is kind of, again, not fast and has to be in that location to contest the objective. So, and moving on to putting that wound counter on the Knight of Barrack right now and testing leadership wise. He passes, he's fine, he doesn't run away. Now, with summoned models in combat, when it's supported by a non-summoned model, do you have options after that summoned model evaporates again to move it, reposition into combat, or are you just kind of stuck?
No, you're essentially, in place those 3 inches away.
Got it. Okay. And then, with your caster committed to the one side, I don't know if I'm debating on this turn with my caster, like trying to either get over to heal the Knight of Barrack to he's got 2 wounds, he's down 1. You've committed to that side a decent amount, or if I just start lobbing hammers into the in the center to loosen it up. You've got 3 guys there. 4. You've got 4 models in the center, your Black Spear included, and 3 followers. And all the 3 followers, I probably could, on a lucky shot, take one out.
Yeah.
But then it still just brings from 4 models to 3 models.
Right. Right.
It's not contesting a whole lot. But so we're looking close up on that combat with the Mizrakai and the summoned spirit. With I forgot that flank.
Yeah, you did have that spearman.
Had a spearman out there who joined in support contact, but even with that support contact, I'm just beating up on a summoned.
You're beating up on a summoned model that's going to go away at the end of the turn anyway, so I don't really care if you kill it.
Yeah, and in a normal campaign setting, I would at least get the consolation prize of getting an experience point on somebody.
Correct.
But in a game like this, in a pseudo-narrative campaign, fun 3-game.
So now, normally, you were asking about support. After that happens, you're just locked into where you are. The Mizrakai has a talent called Backstep, which is amazingly good. So after a combat ends, it's a post-combat ability. He can back up 3 inches if he chooses to, which is nice because 3 inches is the distance you need to get the charge bonus. So suddenly he's in position next turn again if you don't move to be able to charge and activate all his talents that he has again.
Yeah, very nice. And given that you're not in combat when you're in combat, you're not base to base when you backstep. You even have a little bit extra of a distance when you move back your 3 inches that if I do kill the spirit and reposition, or there's more leeway to still get that charge bonus.
Yes.
Which is nice. And then we're rolling to see who gets priority on the next turn, which I think out of all the dice rolls that didn't go in my favor, the going first.
Your going first was really hot for you.
I was real good at going first.
Some say Brandon's the best at going first.
Yeah. First. Being first and a bit too short. I do the buff spell. I buffed the archer to try the shot. Because at this point in time, on the close flank that you can see in the plan, the skirmisher is still mucking around with that sight. This point you've evaded, and you are a decent amount away from me. But since you evaded, you're facing your own table deployment zone.
Correct.
I'm able to charge you from you're less than 10 inches away, but if I do that, I'm 9 inches away from the objective,
Right.
and I'm not testing on it. Even champions get tilted every once in a while, and I decide,
Yeah.
you know, the other
It's like,
flame.
this guy's really annoying me.
Yeah,
Forget the objective. I just want to put my broadsword through his heart.
yeah, exactly. Because the center objective, not going my way, and I planned for the center objective not to go my way. The far objective, also not going my way. That one I did not plan to not go my way, or at least be contesting and
Yep.
in the fight with. So I could play Ring Around Rosie another 2 or 3 turns with this guy and still not get the objective, or I can kill him and still not get the objective, but he's dead. So ended up doing that. I charge the skirmisher on the far side, and he doesn't get a reaction because of facing away.
Yes.
He does get to turn to face. He hasn't moved. He's considered on hold, right, until he activates.
Yep.
So you'll get a turn to face. And do you get a throw? You still get a throw because it's the first round of combat, right?
In that case, I don't think I do because you contact me from the rear.
Even with the turn to face?
So even with the turn to face, I don't believe so. I'd have to check on that. But
And then we're checking with your little nifty laser. Where did you get one of those?
it's an army painter. Army painter, you can give us royalties. It's an army painter
Sponsors.
laser line something.
Okay.
So I think it's like $15. Most game stores can order it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. It comes in.
So
handy.
support your local game store.
Yes, that's a huge thing. We push that a lot. We're looking at the cliffside face-off. You are looking at having another 4 attempts to pick
Yes.
up that, and I lucked out a ton the turn before that you did not get
I
that
whiffed.
6.
I had 4 dice to try and take this objective. I whiffed all 4 rolls.
And three of them are D6s. So getting a 6 on a D6, 18% chance. Maybe not great. With 3 times, you
Yep.
have 50% chance on those. So it's not 50-50 coin flip if you got it. But your black spear that's in the center,
Yeah, D8.
he has a D8, which makes it a little bit better of a test.
So this is what we were talking about. Skirmisher had evaded the previous turn when the Apprentice Knight charged him. But now the Apprentice Knight's within charge distance and charging at his back. So he does not get to react like models normally do if they're charged from the front.
Gotcha. And
I was counting on you heading back to the objective to try and take it. But your bloodlust got the better of you, I think.
well, you were also moving second. So
True.
if I head back to the objective, you move 8.
Yeah.
You're 10 inches away currently. You
Second
just
verse,
come
same
within
as the
2.
first.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
come within 2 inches. You get a throw at that point in time. You could throw at me
Sure.
at minus nothing because you're just moving. You're just faster. And then, you just next turn you either win, and what I needed for you to do was win and move first, and then commit yourself to a spot that I could charge.
Yeah, Freeblades is an interesting game in that tactically it is not always advantageous to win initiative.
Yeah.
You know, I would even argue that it's almost, I would say 60-40. I would rather lose initiative than win.
Yeah. Especially with shooting being simultaneous.
Yeah.
There's not an advantageous to shoot first. My Knight of Valia is, again, we're going to hear this for the next couple turns and probably talk about how taking a slow model that is needed for defense and on turn 2 of the game, relocating it as far away from the objective as possible to slowly trudge
Could probably
towards the
be
objective.
problematic.
Yeah, it turns out not a good idea. But for science, we had to learn this lesson brutally in game 1, and we did. We learned.
So yeah, you're measuring right now, I think, figuring out, distances. Am I going to be able to get my leader up there?
Yeah, I'm also a little worried that my knights and my follower, do they fall back from that objective for a turn to recoup with my leader? Because my leader can't get quite far enough up there in one turn. But if I do, I'm relinquishing a second objective for you to test
Right.
on. Something fun you have cooking up, though, is I believe you just measured the compel. Was it compel or
Enthrall.
Will you just while you have a second, explain that spell, what it does, how you have it?
You're telling a enemy model, you're choosing the enemy model and a friendly model, and the enemy model you chose has to move toward the friendly model that you designate, but cannot attack. And so I wanted to make sure that your Knight of Barrack did not interfere at this objective on the top of the... So I cast Enthrall on him and compelled him to move toward one of my models at the center objective.
And it worked well. I think it was the Archer. You cast it on the Archer.
Yes.
Unlike some of the other compel spells, it does not let you pick the type of movement, right? I can run
you have to maneuver or break off.
Gotcha. I don't get a choice to run.
No.
It's just maneuver or break off.
Yeah.
If you break off, if I do have to break off, do you get a free attack on me like normal?
And that's another wonderful way to use that spell is you cast it on a model that's in combat. They have to break off, and then the models they're fighting with get free attacks.
Oh, that sounds brutal. I'm glad I was not in combat at the time. I end up failing that. There's a spirit test.
Yeah, you can do a spirit test. If the spell goes off successfully, the model gets a spirit test to see if they can, use their will to fight it off, but he did not.
It's a test 6, though.
Yes.
So even against heroes that are using a D8, that's still a rough, kind of rough test. It's 35%.
Yeah.
That's a lot. But then he gets to move, and he moves towards that red Archer.
Yeah.
With the maneuver action, though, I was able to face back towards the flank objective.
Right.
At the end of the move. This puts my back to 3 followers and a hero.
Mm-hmm.
But it allows him to try and threaten the charge on that flank objective. Because I think you're going to have to allocate some amount of resources to eating the followers I'm eating off the cliff. And if you allocate a follower or 2, you just have the 1 hero left to try and charge my Knight of Barrack. And if you're, in my own head, if you're allocating those resources to killing that follower, you're not allocating the resources to capturing that center objective.
Yep. There's absolutely an element of the game where you have to be willing to use your followers as meat shields from time to time.
Yeah.
It needs to be the right time, but it's definitely a functional tactic.
Yes. Looking back on it and seeing that the objectives are TN or target number 6, and that normal followers are rolling a D6 for it, I might have been better off just giving you that entire flank with the skirmisher, letting you just try your D6 at getting a 6 every turn.
Sure. Yeah.
And then converging that knight into the center. If ifs and buts were candies and nuts, we'd all have a Merry Christmas. But
now the Black Spear, this is a kind of an interesting mechanic of the game. So the Black Spear didn't move, so he normally attacks with a D12. In that case, because he didn't move and you charged him, he could split his dice to attack with 2 D6s instead of a D12, essentially giving me more opportunities to hit you. Because you attacked with a follower, your defense was only 4. I look at it as 50-50. I'll use 2 D6 instead. They both hit. So it really guaranteed that follower was going to die.
And even in that combat, I think you had not only the Black Spear, but 1 of the Red Spears as well.
Yeah.
So the pile-on bonus
lowered him to 3.
Yeah, lowered him to 3, which made your math even a little better. And this is the repositioning of the Red Spears back to the objective. They cannot test this turn because they fought in combat, right?
Correct.
But they can get back on it for the future turns of testing on getting and claiming that. And then this is the combat's the last thing you do. If you are hitting this point in the video and you do not know yet how to play a game of Freeblades, I would highly recommend you pause and then go look at our playlist on the channel, which is a Learn to Play series where me and Jeff walk through step by step each phase of the game how to play it, and it'll give you a much better idea of what's going on in here.
For sure, for sure. Now at the top, that top objective, my 2 heroes just killed your follower spearman.
Yes.
So the spell, getting the Knight of Barrack out of there paid off, because now you don't have a model to contest the objective. The spearman's gone. I've got 2 heroes on the objective to test for it.
Yes. And I am, given that I had to throw away one, or I felt I had to throw away, I probably did, had to, a follower in the center, and I've lost my spear follower on the far flank objective. I no longer have I have a significant numerical disadvantage to just the number of bodies that you have on the field and your ability to zone control an area. And here is where the sheer number of tests that you've thrown at the center objective just got it for you. Was it?
Now you notice we put a fate stone on the black spear. The 3 followers failed. The black spear rolled an 8. In Freeblades, anytime you roll the highest number on a die, you get to pick it up and roll again. I rolled another 8.
Yep.
And then I ended up rolling a 21 total. Since the target number was only a 6, anytime you're 10 higher than the target number, you get a fate stone, which is a reroll for that model. So
not only does that deadly hero, he's got the objective, he's got the piece of the map he needs to find where the next Moon Scepter is located, but he's got a reroll.
Yes.
Just in case in the future anything bad happens, he's at least got 2 chances at stopping it. And here we are. I think we're gonna go try and, is it the next turn maybe?
I think so. I think that was our initiative roll.
I will reposition the camera better to catch more of the dice tray. Next ones. Then I can cut some of this out, or yeah. I'm not 100% sure what's going on.
I think we were talking about. No, that must have been our initiative.
Yeah. Okay. On this next turn, I think you took the initiative on this one because you're casting your compel or your enthrall.
Well, enthrall was the enthrall was when I made you run across.
Oh, are you putting another summon down? So it looks like you have your summon on the far side.
Yeah, I summoned another spirit archer.
Yeah, which just insult to injury, salt in the wound. You have another body up on me.
Yeah, I have another body. So this turn, the leader is finally going to make it up the battlefield to get involved in the fight. And I just wanted another body, essentially, to intercept. So if you charge with your Knight of Barrack, or if you charge with your leader, I have a model there that when you move within 4 inches can react. And so it's just, I'm going to run someone in so that then I can determine the combat in the order that I choose.
Gotcha.
So intercept you with a summon model that's really just cannon fodder, and then determine, what I want to do with my 2 heroes.
Yeah. And you're sitting kind of pretty in that you're already up 1 objective.
Yeah.
And I have to take, if I'm going to beat you by objective, I have to take the 2 both on the outside.
Yeah. Now, it was significant. At the end of last turn, I had 2 heroes test on that objective, and they both failed.
Yeah.
So that bought you another turn.
Yeah. This battle report could be very short. I'm glad it wasn't quite as short as it could have been.
So at this point, I let the knight charge me. I took the charge with my summoned model because I believe I wanted that knight close enough to be able to attack him with additional models if I chose to, depending on what you did with your hero.
Yeah, we're talking a little bit right now about charging through that gazebo that was on the far flank. And that gazebo doesn't have any obstructions on the lower end of it other than a few vertical pillars, and the base can fit pretty easily through it. So we decided that the leader could charge through that. I think the leader goes into your caster, right?
I believe so.
Yeah. And then the summon model's taking on the Knight of Barrack. And here is when I decide enough's enough.
Yeah. You're debating. You're thinking, yeah, I'll go. And then you're like, no, I'm just going to go Leroy Jenkins. And
yeah. In a narrative campaign in which you're playing with the injury tables after every game and experience, this move looks a little better in that not only do you potentially get experience for the kill, but also if I could injure that guy after he's been kiting me for 3 or 4 turns,
you're going to feel even better.
There's nothing even better. I want to give him a chest wound or a leg injury, and a leg injury would be great because then he's not quite as fast to kite me anymore.
When you see him limping next game, you're going to be like, oh,
yeah. There's Dave running around the battlefield again. And then here's my knights on that hill. The caster, the Fist of Vidnar, is on that hill. And he's kind of running down. I'm learning from the lessons that you're teaching me this game on how a good caster that has some combat potential doesn't need to stay in the back. And should probably be up and mixing it up with their fellow heroes and followers. I'm normally playing factions that have more of a sit back in the sidelines and lob things in kind of caster, but
there's some nuance to it because you can get caught. It's like, well, darn it, now my caster's stuck in combat, and that's significant because it makes it harder to cast spells. Potentially you could get opportunity attacks if you cast spells, but it can be advantageous if you do it at the right time. So there I moved my leader caster into base to base with your Knight of Barrack that had just charged that summon model.
Yeah. So the recap over there, my leader's into the Mizrakai, I'm guessing. My leader charged somebody, and then the Barrack is in with the summon model and your caster. And the Knight of Barrack, I'd asked you, even though he charged into the summon model, can he allocate attacks into your caster?
Yes.
Which is good because putting attacks into a summon model doesn't really do much for you.
In fact, he may. I'd have to look. I think the summon model is considered a follower, so you probably had to attack the caster.
Gotcha.
There's a rule called Hero's Honor that most models have to follow, that if you're a hero, you have to attack another hero as opposed to a follower.
Yeah, when you have the option. So like if you're a hero and you just decide to charge a follower, that's the only one you're in combat with. You just you beat them up. And here's where the SWAT team is
moved in on the fist.
Yeah, he's done with the center objective, and he's
now because things at the top objective had not played out. Essentially, that objective was still up for grabs. I thought, you know what, the skirmisher's probably getting ready to lose his head. I need to maybe get some support over there. So I run another one of my followers over that direction to potentially intervene next turn in some way.
And I'm sweating a little bit because at this point in time, I am a little close to breaking. I only currently have followers off the board. But even with just followers off the board, my Knight of Barrack has 1 wound left. I think at my Fist of Vidnar, at this point in time, maybe he has 1 wound. We'll see it when he flies over. My Fist of Vidnar does only have 1 wound left. I think there's a wound marker right there.
Yeah, because you were debating, do I want to try and cast a healing spell and give you a free attack?
Yeah. So if I lose either of those heroes, that goes from 2 wounds on the table to 2 wounds off the table. And I essentially break because I've got 3 followers off already. Losing by break is not as bad as losing by objective if we're going to look at for any kind of silver lining.
Yeah,
but
correct.
In competitive play, is it standard yet that we're objective win is 4 points, breaking win is 3, draws 2,
Right.
and then 1 point for a break loss, no points for an objective loss?
I think a loss scores the same regardless.
Still regardless, okay. But it's just the spitefulness of keeping your opponent from getting that
Yes.
point from 3 to 4 for winning by objective.
Yes.
And a lot of times in Freeblades, it's been my experience that games kind of naturally end in break, that both people are in the same areas trying to do the same objectives, and you look down and you're broken.
Yeah. It can be a challenge to win by objective, thus more points. And some, it's there you are skewering my skirmisher.
Yeah.
But
Win. We can cut the video right now. We have achieved everything we wanted to achieve. The one knight has killed one skirmisher on one flank and still does not have the speed to get back to the objective before a second follower shows up.
It was a moral victory.
Yeah.
The apprentice knight is so far away. She's like, what? I'm killing all kinds of people over here. What are you guys doing?
Yeah. Somebody needs to survive and then get back to town to tell them, hey, we're getting attacked by these guys. So that's her job. So
she's really the hero of the story.
To her, she is.
Yeah.
That's all anybody knows. She may be the only one that lives. But yeah, my caster currently is fighting off 3 models.
Yes.
And then my leader and Knight of Barrack on the far side are still duking it out. They're trying, but you can kind of see this in the dash cam. Those red arrows that Rodger has so lovingly applied to the table indicate charges, where his models have viciously come running at mine.
Yes.
The people who have done nothing wrong at all, other than try to hold these objectives. Now, I think here we're resolving the combat against my fist. And
then I rolled an 8 for damage, 14 for damage, which is pretty much all she wrote.
Yeah, that the Fist of Vidnar having an armor of 6 is actually really good for a caster. It's good for any model.
Yeah.
And but the D8 damage, especially when you spike it, it's rough. You end up getting them. And I don't think I'm broken at this very moment. You still have to resolve the combats up on the flank.
Right.
But it's not looking good, and B, even if I didn't break, that SWAT team is just cutting a path
Yes.
directly towards that objective.
Yeah. Had you held one more turn, I would have had a significant advantage. It didn't help that your leader rolled a 1 to attack.
I did torch my leader's attack, and the turn I move, I can't split attacks.
Yeah.
So I'm just rolling that 1d12 and hoping I get a good number.
So then that's my leader. She has a two-ended weapon, so she can decide to either up her defense or make 2 attacks. She made 2 attacks.
And I believe both hit. The 5
both
was good
hit.
enough to get through my...
And that was your die hard check, I believe,
Yeah.
which
kills
finishes
the
off the Knight of Barrack.
And at this point in time, I'm broken.
Yes.
Now, you still play out to the end of the round, just in case I could somehow miraculously the Galbor hit the battlefield with the meteor and we break
Right.
us both, or I could just pilfer and steal both objectives off the table and then tell you that I've tested for them. Maybe both those things. You got to play to your outs, guys. You got to play to all of your victory conditions.
Play to hear the whistle.
Yeah. I didn't hear no bell. Yeah, so I'm officially broken. The game will end here. I think since everyone on that side of the field was too busy murderizing the other heroes that are over there, you do not test yet for that objective, and the game will end here with a break victory for the Moonsworn.
Yes, as it should be.
How are you feeling after that?
The game went well. Again, when you moved your leader, I felt like it gave me an opportunity merely because of his speed. I would have liked to have gotten that top objective earlier, but it played out about how I thought it would once your leader was out of the picture in the center. Onward and upward. We've got our map pieces, and we made those proud knights run home to mommy.
Yeah, we're gonna take this back to the locker room. We're gonna dust it off. We're gonna get an upgrade from 150 gold to 200 gold. We're gonna try to bring some more tools in the toolbox and take on some Coronins in the Undercity next.
All right.
Looking for game 2. So a rousing success of the Moonsworn.
Did not go well for the Knights.
No. But game 2 will be up shortly, so stay tuned for that. And it'll be the Heralded Knights chasing the Moonsword down into the sewers.
The sewers.
To look for the hidden entrance.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
we have not stopped them yet, but we will one of these days.
They were clearly unprepared for the surprise assault from the Coronas.
Yeah. The next game will be 200 gold. We'll be upping it a little bit. And in normal narrative fashion, we would be doing injuries and level ups. But for this quick 3-game narrative campaign, we're going to kind of bypass that and just increase the point value of the characters or the free bands as we go.
Yes.
As always, champions, never stop playing.